You're watching Zoo Tours, the channel that takes you on a virtual field trip to the zoo. It's always great whenever we explore an exhibit we haven't seen before, but it's even better when it's at a zoo we haven't seen before. Welcome to the debut of Busch Gardens Tampa Bay, one of the most beautiful places I have ever seen. Busch Gardens Tampa is a 335-acre attraction started by the Anheuser-Busch Brewing Company in 1959. What began as a free-roaming bird sanctuary with a beer garden eventually became the ultimate family adventure. Fast forward to today. It is divided into 11 highly thematic zones. Busch Gardens is owned and operated by SeaWorld Adventure Parks, so while it may be a theme park, it balances a combination of entertainment and education, fit for both animal lovers and thrill seekers alike. Today we'll be throwing on our safari hats to explore the right side of the park. Before we do that, I once again must thank my good friend Johnny for joining me on my visit, covering my admission, and providing this video with some of his own footage. So to thank him, I want you to do your thing and go follow his Instagram accounts. The links are in the description. And lastly, I want to know, what is your favorite behind the scenes or add-on zoo experience? I did want to start with the alligators and the great apes of the Nairobi zone, but unfortunately the chimpanzees were off exhibit for the day. So that brings us to Egypt. You won't find any tiny iteration of the Great Pyramids, but you will find cheetahs. The main designer was inspired by SeaWorld's Manta Aquarium along with the Manta Coaster to incorporate an animal habitat with a thrilling ride. The cats and the cheetah hunt were added to Egypt in 2011. The cheetah hunt, originally called Cheetah, is a steel launch coaster that maxes out at 102 feet tall and launches at 60 miles per hour in 2.4 seconds. Kind of like a cheetah. Even though we were here to work, we did try it out, and it became one of my all-time favorite coasters. The track winds aggressively past the hippos, through a gazelle exhibit, and right next to the cheetahs. Their exhibit is approximately 220 feet long and 15,000 square feet, but it's still kind of on the narrow side, which is a pretty good indicator that you'll see a cheetah run presentation. Now let's see that in slow motion. Your first taste of the next attraction, literally, is at the Serengeti Overlook, a large family dining cafe that offers simple American-style cuisines with indoor and outdoor seating, so you can enjoy your meal while getting one of the most truly beautiful views you'll ever see. This overlooks the Serengeti Plain, one of the largest and more convincing savannas in America. You can get even closer at the watering hole view, but most of the animals reside on the other side of the plain. If you're one of those visitors that needs to see everything, there is one, I imagine a slightly forgotten wetland habitat, which has a sign for Dalmatian pelicans, though Johnny and I do suspect that there's also a pink-backed pelican or two in there. This is really the only unobstructed view of the savanna when you're on foot, so we're gonna solve that by skimming through the edge of Africa to meet up with the rest of the Serengeti Safari Tour group. This add-on experience is $39.99 or $49.99 per person depending on the day, and you can usually choose from 6 different time slots. Unlike the Wilds or Kilimanjaro safaris, this truck is open air and keeps you on your feet. The loading dock is actually already in an exhibit. Though you probably won't stop for them, the very first thing you should see is a herd of lowland Nyala antelope along the way. We are now going into one of the 2 giant main savannas. Now, can anyone tell me what those tall things in the distance are?
Giraffes.
That's right, they're called roller coasters, and Busch Gardens is home to 10. You also might spot a huge herd of impala, a graceful antelope that could easily clear 10-foot tall obstacles. The common eland, the second largest of all the antelope, can actually do something very similar. It too can jump nearly 10 feet in the air, despite weighing well over 1,500 pounds more than the impala. Your guide might tell you that the most endangered animal you'll see at the gardens is the addax. Some say that they're just about as close to extinction in the wild as it possibly can be. The addax is roughly one of the park's 30 animals managed under the Species Survival Plan, a program that works to increase captive populations that mostly works with AZA member zoos. Now, as for you in the back, we'll get to you soon. Don't worry. As we continue off-road into the second field, now's a good time to tell you a few facts about the Serengeti Plain. This immersive attraction actually opened in 1965, but at that time, it was only 29 acres. I say only, as if that's small, but the plain has been upgraded and expanded over the years, and altogether, it's now 65 acres large. That's just about the exact same size as the Cincinnati Zoo and or the Indianapolis Zoo. I did find one source that claims this was once the largest African savanna exhibit outside of Africa. I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not. It's still pretty big. They say most zoo animals are active in the morning and the evening, so I scheduled the tour around noon. As a result, the gazelles, the plain zebras, sable antelope, even the white rhinos weren't feeling it. But as Johnny always reminds me, we run on the animals' time, and not the other way around. Still, it's kinda nice to see just how much space they really have. At this point, your guide will then drive you back into the first field to experience what makes this Serengeti safari so special. Giraffe feeding stations have been on the rise across the globe over the past couple of decades. At this point, it sort of feels unusual if a zoo's giraffe doesn't get their daytime snacks from visitors. It might be a little crowded on the truck, but your tour guide will make sure that you get at least 2 large heads of lettuce. And if you want a third, all you have to do is ask. Be careful where you hold them. They might be snatched out of your hand before you can even pull your phone out. The guide will recommend feeding them the traditional way, by holding the food away from your body. Or you can do it the fun way, by cupping the lettuce in your hand, so inevitably you can feel the texture of the giraffe's prehensile tongue on your palm. The females might eat approximately 3% of their body weight each day. That doesn't sound like much, but 75 pounds of vegetation still sounds like a lot to me. Heck, even I struggle to even get an ounce in a week. Like a lot of hoofed creatures, these savanna skyscrapers spend most of their day eating, and as tall as they are and as long as their tongues are, giraffes can only get a few leaves in with every bite. Given the chance to be able to feed one of these gentle giants will always be impactful in some way, but the opportunity isn't really hard to come by. Busch Gardens definitely feels different. I first hopped onto the Serengeti Safari nearly a decade and a half ago, and it really did stick with me ever since. I guess it really does make a huge difference when you are taken to the animals rather than having them come to you. That's where the safari may come to an end. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to say goodbye. While this experience does cost a little extra, you can see the entirety of the savanna from the train that encircles this 65-acre habitat, free of charge. That will conclude the debut of Busch Gardens Tampa Bay, and it will just keep on getting better and better from here. The next time our tour group will stroll through these gardens, the close encounters with some of Africa's most iconic creatures will continue on. Let me know what you thought of this exhibit. Please stay tuned for the next episode. See if you can answer this episode's trivia question. And thank you all for joining me on the Serengeti Safari.